public debate about drug prices often centers on greed, executives, shareholders, corporate morality. That framing is emotionally satisfying, but analytically shallow. High drug prices are not primarily the result of bad actors. They are the predictable output of an institutional system designed to reward exclusivity, delay competition, and channel market power through intermediaries. To understand how pharmaceutical pricing actually works in the United States, we have to examine three structures operating together: patents, regulation, and pharmacy benefit managers. Individually, each exists for defensible reasons. Together, they form a monopoly maintenance machine. The starting point is patents. Drug development is expensive, risky, and slow. Patents are intended to solve a real problem. Without temporary exclusivity, firms would underinvest in research because competitors could free ride on successful discoveries. In theory, patents trade short-term monopoly power for long-term innovation. In practice, patent protection rarely ends where the molecule does. Pharmaceutical patents are layered. A single drug may be protected not only by a patent on the active ingredient, but by dozens of additional patents covering formulations, delivery mechanisms, manufacturing processes, dosing schedules, and even methods of use. This strategy is known as evergreening. Evergreening does not require discovering a new drug. It requires discovering legally defensible ways to extend exclusivity, a slightly altered formulation, a new extended release version, a different dosage, a combination pill. Each modification can generate a new patent and a new exclusivity clock. The result is that nominal patent lifetimes of 20 years often translate into effective monopolies lasting far longer. This is not illegal. It is strategic compliance. Patents alone, however, do not explain the full pricing power. Regulation amplifies their effect. The U.S. drug approval process, overseen by the Food and Drug Administration, is designed to ensure safety and efficacy. That goal is legitimate, but regulation also shapes market structure by raising barriers to entry. Clinical trials are expensive. Approval timelines are long. Compliance requirements are complex. Large firms with diversified portfolios can absorb these costs. Smaller entrants struggle. Once a drug is approved, generics are theoretically allowed to compete when exclusivity expires. But generic entry is not automatic. It requires its own approval process, manufacturing capacity, and legal defense against patent litigation. This creates a second layer of delay. Even when a generic challenger is ready, patent holders can engage in legal strategies that slow competition. Litigation risk alone can deter entry. Settlements may delay launch. Authorized generics can be introduced strategically to blunt price competition. Again, this is not corruption. It is institutional optimization. Then there is a less visible but equally powerful actor: pharmacy benefit managers. PBMs sit between drug manufacturers, insurers, employers, and pharmacies. They design formularies, negotiate rebates, and determine which drugs are preferred, restricted, or excluded. In theory, PBMs exist to reduce costs by negotiating discounts. In practice, their incentives are misaligned. PBM compensation is often tied to the size of rebates they secure, not the net price paid by patients or insurers. This creates a perverse incentive. Drugs with higher list prices can generate larger rebates, even if their net cost remains high. Manufacturers respond rationally. They raise list prices, offer large rebates to PBMs, and secure favorable formulary placement. Lower-priced competitors struggle to compete because they cannot offer the same rebate economics, even if their drugs are cheaper on a net basis. This is how prices rise while everyone claims to be negotiating discounts. The PBM becomes a gatekeeper. Access to patients depends less on clinical value and more on rebate strategy. Market share flows through formularies, not prescriptions alone. The system rewards price opacity. Patients rarely see list prices. Insurers often pay net prices. PBMs capture spread. Manufacturers maintain pricing power, and competition becomes distorted. Overlay this with another regulatory feature: the Orphan Drug Designation. Orphan drug status was created to encourage development for rare diseases that would otherwise be unprofitable. It grants additional exclusivity, tax credits, and regulatory benefits. In principle, this is a targeted subsidy for neglected populations. In practice, it has become another strategic tool. Companies can segment diseases into smaller populations, seek orphan designation, and then expand usage beyond the original niche. A drug approved for a rare condition may later be prescribed off-label or for broader indications, while retaining orphan protections. This allows firms to charge monopoly prices in markets larger than originally intended. The orphan designation does not require malicious intent. It requires compliance with statutory thresholds. Once granted, it creates legally sanctioned scarcity. When you combine evergreening, regulatory barriers, PBM incentives, and orphan exclusivity, the pattern becomes clear. The system does not reward the lowest sustainable price. It rewards control over access. Drug markets in the United States are not free markets in the classical sense. They are administratively mediated markets, where pricing power flows from legal exclusivity, regulatory complexity, and intermediary gatekeeping. This is why reform efforts that target only one component tend to fail. Attacking patents without addressing regulatory delay risks, reducing innovation. Reforming PBMs without addressing rebate structures only shifts margins. Speeding FDA approvals without addressing litigation and exclusivity merely accelerates monopoly launch. The problem is not one institution, it is the interaction between them. From an institutional perspective, Big Pharma's pricing power is not a conspiracy. It is the logical outcome of rules designed at different times for different purposes, now operating together. Each layer reinforces the next. Patents create exclusivity. Regulation raises entry costs. PBMs control access. Orphan status extends protection. Evergreening stretches timelines. Litigation enforces boundaries. The result is a market where competition is delayed, diluted, or redirected. Understanding this matters because policy debates often focus on intentions rather than mechanisms. Good intentions do not guarantee good outcomes. Institutions shape behavior more reliably than ethics. If drug prices are to change meaningfully, reforms must address how exclusivity is granted, how intermediaries are paid, and how competition is allowed to emerge. Until then, the monopoly playbook will continue to work, not because it is immoral, but because it is structurally sound. For continued institutional analysis of how regulation, incentives, and governance shape markets, subscribe.